Hey everyone, it's Evange, and today I'm going to show you how to make naan bread. This is one of those things that I tried for years and years to get right. I'd follow all sorts of different recipes, and it never really turned out right until quite recently, maybe like 3 years ago, I figured this out. It's not about the recipe, it's about the technique. So you can really use any recipe at all to make this, and it'll turn out amazing. And it really doesn't matter what recipe you can use. You don't even have to make your own dough. You can buy like those frozen pizza doughs from the grocery store, and you just roll it out, stick it under the broiler. It works perfectly every time. So if you want to know how I made it, keep watching, and remember, it's not about the recipe, it's about the technique. So keep watching. So to start out with, I'm going to make a basic yeast dough. You can use any dough recipe, any naan recipe, any pizza dough recipe. You could even use like a ball of frozen pizza dough from the grocery store. But you know, it's so easy, I do it myself. Now what it is I just take a bit of warm water. That's probably like, I don't know, a cup and a half. And to which I add a little bit of sugar. This is probably 1, 2, 3 tablespoons. It's not really for the sweetness, it's just to help the yeast kind of wake up and activate. And then a little bit of salt. And I don't know, maybe that's half a teaspoon, quarter of a teaspoon. And then to this I'm gonna add some yeast. Now I just use regular yeast, and I'm probably using a teaspoon or half a packet. But again, just do what you think works for you. I've gotten to the point where like I used to buy it in the jars of yeast, so I just kind of eyeball it each time. But I don't bake as much as I used to, so now I just get little packets, and probably, you know, one of these packets is good for half. So I'm just gonna let this sit for a couple minutes while the yeast can like wake up and activate and stuff. So probably 10-15 minutes I'm gonna let it sit here. So once it's reached about this point where all the yeast is dissolved and it's even started maybe bubbling a bit, you can add the flour. Now again, I don't really measure things, but I think probably maybe 2 cups, maybe even 3 cups of flour will go into this in the end. So I usually just, you know, sprinkle a bit on top, and then I stir it with a fork until it becomes a loose dough, and then I'll add more flour while I knead it by hand. It's better to add too little flour than too much, because it's more difficult to add more water than it is to just add more flour. So yeah, probably at this point I'll add a bit more flour and stir it with the fork, and then when it's dry enough that if I stick my hand in, it's not just all going to stick to my hand, then I will add a tiny bit more flour and knead it for a couple minutes. Now with this recipe, developing the yeast isn't that important, because it's not going to be in like a big fluffy loaf. It's just going to be like flatbread. So don't worry too much about kneading it. Like, I know in the days before bread machines, you'd have to knead your bread like crazy. Like they say, turn it out and knead it for 10 minutes, and there's no way I can do that. But if you have a bread machine, it does make it nice if you just set it on like the dough cycle of the bread machine. Because I mean, kneading does develop the yeast, which will make it gives it a better texture in the end. But for me, I mean, it's so much work kneading. So yeah, I'm just gonna knead it to the point where it's not sticky anymore, not like sticky anymore, and then I'm gonna let it sit for a couple minutes. Well, a couple minutes, like maybe half an hour. And there is a big difference between being sticky because it's not kneaded enough and being sticky because there's not enough flour. Right now I think it's sticky because there's not enough flour yet, but be wary, don't add too much flour. You want something that's really loose and moist feeling, but it shouldn't be sticky. If you develop the yeast enough, it's not going to be sticky at all. So yeah, a little bit more flour. Again, that's what's nice about a bread machine, is that you can have a dough with a lot of moisture in it, but it's still kneaded a lot and develops the gluten, so it's not going to be sticky. But yeah, honestly, like a wetter dough is better for this, although this is a bit overkill right now. And my dough recipe is really simple. I mean, it's just the yeast, flour, water, salt, sugar. But if I'm doing this as a pizza dough, I usually add an egg too. I don't know what it is about it, but like egg makes it crispier. But again, the dough totally does not matter for this recipe. It's all about the technique when you bake it. Okay, so the dough is about right now. So it's incredibly sticky, but it's still, if you touch it, it still peels off. It doesn't stick to you, it peels off. So I'm going to let this sit probably half an hour, an hour. You're just proofing it a bit to make sure you know the yeast is good and stuff. You're not really proofing it to raise it like you would with a loaf of bread. So yeah, I'm just gonna let this sit for a bit. I'm gonna cover it in plastic wrap and then let it sit. Okay, so this is the dough, and I did go back and add a bit more flour because it was still too wet. And it's been resting for maybe an hour, and it's about doubled in size, but again, I did stop like halfway through and knead it some more. The amount it rises doesn't really matter too much. You just wanna know the yeast is alive, so you know, anywhere from raising like from 50% to doubling is good. So before I get to rolling that out, I'm gonna turn on the broiler. And I'm gonna position the shelves two from the top. So not on the shelf you'd ordinarily put the broiler, but one down from it. And this is the technique I use to cook it, and it kind of simulates the same conditions as a tandoor. So for this much dough, I'm probably going to divide it into like maybe quarters or thirds. You want the dough maybe like a fistful size. I like my naan to be pretty big, but I mean you can always make them smaller or bigger depending on what you like. So I'm just punching down the dough and then I'm dividing it into quarters. So yeah, once you squeeze all the air out, I mean it's a good fistful of dough. And I'm just going to shape all four of these into nice balls and just stick them back in here to relax a bit. Okay, so I've divided my dough into four. Now I'm just going to kind of flatten these. I'm not rolling them out, I'm just going to flatten them to let them relax a bit while I'm working on the other ones. And it'll just make it easier to roll out in the end. And I mean, there's only four of them, so they'll all still fit in the bowl. Now, I guess you could like completely form this by hand, but I use a rolling pin. I think it does a better, more even job. Okay, so now I've got like 4 discs of dough here. And here comes the rolling out part. Now, you could roll this out on the countertop and then transfer it to your cookie sheet or whatever, but then you're gonna have to add a bit more flour while you're rolling it out so it doesn't stick to everything. And I don't really like adding extra flour at this point because then when you cook it, it's got the flour on when it's done, and it's I don't know, it just makes it kind of weird to eat. I don't like getting the floury bits on my finger while I'm eating. So what I do is, I've got a cookie sheet, and I'm just gonna put foil on the cookie sheet. And the great thing about the foil is that once the dough cooks, it doesn't stick, it peels right off. So you can roll it out and it'll stick to the foil while you're rolling it, but then when you cook it, it comes off. And so yeah, you don't have to add any extra flour. You can also brush this with ghee, or brush your pan with ghee or oil. I don't really like doing that. Well, I like the taste of ghee on my bread, but I'm actually having rogan josh today, which is lamb curry, which is kind of greasier, so I don't want to add that extra fat. Usually though, if I make a really good like lentil vegetable curry, and when I make that, I try to make ghee on the same day, and then as the milk solids are bubbling up, I scoop them off and I pour them into that because it doesn't have any fat naturally, and it makes it really, really nice. But today, rogan josh is fatty, so I'm not going to do that. And foil. Crap, I gotta find better foil. Okay, so I've got foil on my baking pan, and I really like this too because then there's like nothing to clean up. You just peel off the foil and throw it away. And I got a rolling pin, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place one of these down on here. And there's a bit of flour on it from the bowl, but I mean, don't add extra flour. And I'm just going to roll this out. Now, I used to make them really, really thin, but lately I've been finding that I like them a lot thicker. So I think the ideal thickness is thicker than 1/4 of an inch, but not quite 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is too thick. Yeah, so just roll it out. I don't know what that would be, like 1/3 of an inch. So this is about what it looks like. I try to get it as big as it can be in the pan, maybe the size of a dinner plate, maybe like 9-10 inches. But this is as big as I can get this one. Now as you go on, because the discs of dough would have been like relaxing for a bit, you can roll them a bit bigger. But this is the first one, so it's also going to be the smallest one. And what I'm going to do, it's rolled out. I'm just going to put it, just going to go straight into the oven under the broiler. And just keep an eye on it. You probably want to cook it for like 2-3 minutes, just until you see it starting to get brown. As soon as you see it starting to get brown, take it out immediately, because there's a very fine line between brown and burned. So yeah, that's gonna be in there for about 3 minutes, just because it's the first one, the oven's not very hot yet. And then I'm gonna take it out, flip it over, and then cook it for another minute. Okay, it's probably gonna look a bit like that, and I'm just taking it out and I'm gonna flip it over. Okay, so this is just gonna go back into the oven for about 1 minute, and don't take your eyes off of it, because it cooks really, really fast. Okay, so I think it's about ready to come out. So that's how it's cooked. And I'm just going to flip this over onto a plate, and I can start the next one. You can brush these with butter, but I mean, it's hot, fresh bread, and as delicious as butter is, you can't really improve on hot, fresh bread. So I'm gonna roll out the others now. So this is the finished naan. It is so delicious. It's perfect. It's like crispy on the outside, chewy and soft on the inside. Like seriously, you would probably get better naan at like an Indian restaurant, but they charge like $2.50, $3 a portion for it. And it's so easy to make at home. Again, just to recap the technique, you just roll it out thin, stick it under the broiler, not like the top shelf, but like 1 or 2 shelves down from the broiler. Cook it for like 2-3 minutes per side, and then take it out when it's brown, and it's perfect. So the reason I was making naan bread today is because a couple days ago, I made rogan josh, which is like lamb curry, and then I added butter makis today because I had butter makis, and yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight, is my curry and my naan bread. You can also use the same recipe and technique to make like pita bread, and I tried explaining this, but not once, but twice was the camera not on while I was explaining this, and then I was out of dough. So if you want to do this as pita bread, you just shape the dough into discs and let them rest for like 20-30 minutes until it's risen a bit and it's got bubbles in it, and then immediately roll it out very, very thin, less than 1/4 of an inch thick, and then pop it under the broiler. And that technique, it kind of flattens the bubble, so the dough's got air in it, but it's flat. So then when you put it in the oven and it meets the hot air, it's gonna puff up dramatically. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you like my video, be sure to subscribe. I do sewing, I do cooking, but yeah, I'm an expert. I like to say I'm an expert. Yeah, this is just so good. Goes with Indian food, goes with Middle Eastern food. Yeah, like there's no time when hot, fresh bread is not delicious. Everybody loves bread. It's even better when it's fresh. Now, you can brush these with ghee. I don't bother because again, it's hot, fresh bread. No one's gonna turn down hot, fresh bread because it doesn't have ghee on it. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go eat.